Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Foremost, I bring you greetings from Kenya. I wish also to register my delegation and I, our appreciation to the facilitation that was accorded to us by His Majesty the King, and by extension, Moroccan Penitentiary Administration, to be able to participate in this very important forum, the first one of its kind in Africa, and one that gives us a lot of encouragement that going forward, we will then be able to get African solutions to some of the cross-cutting challenges that we experience in the world of corrections. Ladies and gentlemen, my presentation on experiences on management and security of violent extremist offenders in penal facilities will be divided into 3 areas and ultimately a conclusion. But it is important to register at this moment in time that Kenya has suffered the devastating effect of terrorism, and therefore the government of Kenya embraced very strongly the counter-terrorism measure that brings together a number of actors, both internal and external, so that we stem this global vice. And it is also important to remember that in the profiling and mapping out strategy, prisons was discovered to be one of the areas that could then become a breeding ground for terrorist-related activities. I will look at the containment of the violent extremist offenders that come into our institution from the point of admission. Equally, my presentation will also look at the rehabilitation programs that we have in place that eventually facilitate effective reintegration into the larger society. It is important also to remember the fact that we have a legal framework that applies to all detainees across the board. And therefore, policies have additionally been developed to be able to contain this special category of offenders in our facility, considering the nature of offenses that they have committed and the focus that we put on them. Violent extremist offenders are prisoners like any other in our institution, and therefore the issues to do with human rights are observed to the letter so that there is no violation in any way. We only focus on the issues that will help us in the radicalization process without violating any of their rights. In our institutions, we have the violent extremist offenders who are convicted and unconvicted. Those that have gone through the judicial process and have been put into our facilities for varied length of time. There are also as well those who are still awaiting a trial. In Kenya, we hold this category of offenders in our maximum security facilities, bearing in mind the risks that they pose to society. Because of the developing phenomena of terrorism, in the year 2018, together with the UNODC, we developed a tool that helps us to handle this category of offenders from the point of admission and within our facilities, and also being put into the training program. Somewhere along the way, the Kenyan Correctional Services also boosted the tool that was developed, normally referred to as Tool K, with our collaboration with the Swedish Prison and Probation Services. And this is giving us lots of insights on how to make containment and rehabilitation of violent extremist offenders effective. Now, the tool assists in understanding the level of radicalization of the offenders. And in it, we look at the risk of reoffending, the risk of committing violent extremists, motivated violence. We also look at the risk of radicalizing and recruiting others even while in the confines of custody. We also look at the risk of being radicalized or radicalizing others within the prison facilities, including the members of staff. Now, on admission, we take the biodata of the violent extremist offenders. Screening for medical purposes is done the normal way so that we also get to know their medical history. The initial risk assessment, which then would require that they are isolated somewhere within the confines of our facility, so that we go with a tooth comb and we are able really to get most of the information that we require to help us in classifying them. The prison authorities work very closely with other criminal justice sectors, including the intelligence organizations, to be able really to get as much information as possible that would help us in the classification and process. And then once the information has been obtained, also using the intelligence that we have since established within our facilities, we are then therefore able to place the violent extremist offenders as either being low, or medium, or high risk within our facilities. Sometimes it is not possible to get this information at one go at the point of admission. It would therefore mean that we have to do quite a bit of work, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months down the line. It is a continuous process, so that every information that comes into our realm at the end of the day help us in terms of putting in place a sentence plan and a rehabilitation program. While we are doing the initial investigation, the violent extremist offenders are not mixed with any other prisoner in that category who may have been admitted into our facilities earlier. Reassessment is done time and again, after 1 month, after every 3 months, so that we have a continuous monitoring and evaluation to be able really to get the issues that we want and place them in proper rehabilitation programs that would help us achieve the desired results. Disengagement is key. And here we engage them in motivational dialogue to create a seed of doubt in their fundamental beliefs. We tell them that Islam as a religion does not provide for spilling of innocent blood. And sometimes when this information is passed on with the right people, the right atmosphere, time and again, it then begins to bear the desired fruit in the process. We also address in our rehabilitation program the psychological needs through tailor-made programs. This even include the faith-based intervention programs. Then the work of reintegration into the larger community is also done together with the agency in Kenya that deals with alternatives to imprisonment and reintegration into the larger society, known as the probation and aftercare services. Now, in a nutshell, the agencies that we collaborate with are the intelligence from the military, the intelligence from the police, the National Counterterrorism Center. We also have information from the immigration, Kenya Wildlife Service. All this information put together, including that we pick from the community, is very, very critical to us in packaging, containment, and rehabilitation programs for this kind of offenders. The information so received, as I indicated earlier, assists us in sentence planning of the violent extremist offenders, making informed decisions in containment and rehabilitation program. It also aids in the risk assessment and monitor the risk and protection of factors while incarceration and determine the success of the programs that we do undertake with them. The rehabilitation programs I did indicate are those that are psychological, those that are faith-based intervention programs. We also have the arts, culture. Those are some of the intervention programs that we do put in place to be able to reform this category of offenders. Security surveillance is key at all times. We have to monitor and separate, isolate, so as to prevent radicalization. Capacity building for our staff, because this is a new phenomenon and a global threat as we all understand it. There is need to also develop a curriculum for our staff that would actually help them understand this kind of offenders. And this has been done in our situation at our training college. We have developed a curriculum that is actually focused in helping our members of staff who specially deal with this category of offenders understand how really to succeed in the containment and rehabilitation processes. We also collaborate with other agencies, non-state actors and state actors in analyzing all the information that may be relevant. And we share the data information across the board with all the stakeholders. Containing this kind of offenders is not without challenges. One of the key and outstanding challenge that we do experience in our jurisdiction is overcrowding. Our population of inmates in total stands on the average at about 53,000. And our official stated capacity is about 27,000. Now, coupled by the population, however small, of the violent extremist offenders that we have in place, then overcrowding becomes a challenge because we need proper infrastructure where we can keep the VEOs and then engage them in focused rehabilitation program. We have, of course, inadequate funds to be able to support disengagement programs, curb radicalization in prison, and support research on VEOs, inadequate capacity amongst our staff, and then, of course, continuous research and development. The prison service in Kenya may not have the capacity in this area, but then what we are actually encouraging, especially in the area on research and development and sharing of information, is to work very, very closely with the other actors so that together we make a difference. Inadequate rehabilitation programs for the VEOs, inadequate logistical support, including equipment to support forensic process and transport, and also transnational nature of terrorism, hence communication sometimes becomes a barrier. In conclusion, our way forward as a jurisdiction in corrections in this regard is to have more of a collaboration with agencies, all the agencies, both state and non-state actors, nationally within our country and internationally. Develop rehabilitation programs to build violent extremist offenders' needs, to suit violent extremist offenders' need. Develop a curriculum on radicalization and handling of VEOs at the Staff Training College and conduct continuous training for our staff. We have put in place in this respect the emergency response that we did witness at the academy yesterday, though in a small way, to help respond to emergency needs. Sourcing for more funding to support intelligence unit and purchase the equipment desired. Research and development should also be a continuous thing if we had to work in collaboration and really forge ahead in terms of having peace within our countries and within the region, because it is a prerequisite for development. Thank you very much.